Today we're going to do things a little bit differently. I didn't do a regular vlog show today. Got a chance to get things done and just free flow without the camera on. Today we're going to do a show and talk about many different aspects of eBay international shipping. That would include global shipping, but not necessarily eBay global shipping. Today on The Crazy Picker Life with Wheeler, Dealer, and Banana Peeler. Welcome, fellow pickers and would-be adventurers. Dealer here, hands-free, cameras on a tripod with the Crazy Picker Life topic series. Today we're going to talk about international shipping, and it's going to be sort of a relaxed atmosphere for me, if that's possible. I'm in my back inventory room. It's hard to find a place where I can guarantee I'm going to get to focus and not get interrupted, but I think we might have it, at least for a while. Okay, so international shipping. I've wrote down some notes, some topics, some examples. I'm going to try to keep this to an hour. So I got to remember to look at my watch. I can be long-winded. I like to talk about stuff relating to eBay and business and just life subjects. But I can also attempt to be concise if an hour is concise. Now, international shipping, I'm in the United States of America. I'm in the state of Kansas. Anytime I ship to Canada or Mexico or South America or overseas to Europe, Australia, Asia, Iceland, I don't know where else I've shipped, some crazy islands that I don't recognize. I don't think I've sent anything to Antarctica, at least not knowingly. Sometimes you send to APO boxes and they go to who knows where. Anytime I ship outside of the United States, that is international shipping. It typically costs more than shipping to the United States. It comes with rules and regulations. It comes with sort of a stereotype of fear from some. The unknown, sending things overseas, throwing stuff out there, don't know if it's going to get there, language barrier, all kinds of different challenges. I'm going to try to simplify some of this for you. This is not an organized TED Talk. This is going to be like my experience in 10 years of international shipping, let's say. I've been sending things through the mail for probably 25 years, maybe closer to 30 years. And that's not just envelopes, that would be packages. My eBay international shipping, mostly probably the last 10 years, smaller items mainly. I did sell DVDs early in the century. I kept most of those US bound, I believe, in Canada, mainly because the DVDs have PAL and whatever the other designation for other areas are. There's some restrictions there. I also sold big box air purifiers, and I shipped most of those UPS. I kept those in the United States. But in the last 10 years, I've been shipping a lot of packages, and a good percentage internationally, maybe as high as 25-30% of our packages. We probably ship 500 or more total packages every month. Some months more, some months maybe a little less, and 25 or 30% of those are overseas. Okay, so I'm just going to start going through some topics here and telling you what I know, my experience. It is not all encompassing. It is not set in stone. It is 2018. If you are watching this in 2019 or beyond, things could change. I am also not all-knowing. And so if you do international shipping, you may have something to add to my topics. You may have some examples that are better. You may have some information that conflicts with mine. You may think I missed the boat. Well, you're welcome to start your own channel or comment below or sit in your room and fume or, you know, whatever. This is my story. Okay, so I do want this to be informative. I don't want it to be dry and boring. I don't want it to be step by step. I don't want it to be the full picture. You're going to have to explore your own international shipping if you haven't done it, if you are doing it, if you're going to continue to do it. It is an ever dynamic, changing, you learn, you grow, you think you know most of it, then you get hit again with something new, some of it good, some of it bad. The world is dynamic and changing, and international shipping is dynamic and changing. One last disclaimer. I do things my way. I'm open always to new ideas. I am somewhat entrenched in a lot of my ideas just because my life is fast-paced and there's a lot going on, and I can't change everything at once or I might fall over dead. So I know many of you are very, very good-natured and you mean well when you leave stuff down below like, why don't you do things this way? Why don't you do things that way? Please don't stop leaving those type of comments, but just realize that I can't change everything at once. I won't change everything at once, but I do read all the comments and I appreciate them. And I do look at certain things from time to time. And a lot of times what it takes is it takes me getting hit this way and that way and this way and that way. And then I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, dummy, why didn't you look at this before? And then I could probably go back and thank all these people that were hitting me with this information, right? Oh, well. Can an old dog learn new tricks? It's one of those questions. All right, right on the top of my list, global shipping. Global shipping. Well, global shipping was introduced by eBay a few years ago. If I had to guess, maybe as early as 2013, 14, 15, I don't know, somewhere in there. Global shipping, revolutionized international shipping, right? You ship to eBay's hub, and eBay will take it somewhere else faster, safer, more direct, tracking, good for the seller, good for the buyer. Everything will be nirvana. We'll ship to first 10, 15, 20 countries and then pretty much the world after that, right? Well, that sounded interesting when it first came out. It sounded good when it first came out. And the reality of it is there are more challenges, I think, maybe than eBay ever thought. And I think it's a good program. Okay? I'm not here to slam global shipping. I use it on 2 of my 4 channels. I have 4 active eBay channels right now. I currently use it exclusively for international shipping on 2 of my channels. They are not my fastest channel. My camera channel, where I probably do 65-70% of my business, I do not use global shipping. I don't know if I'll talk about the exactities of why I chose that. I think it'll come up throughout this talk. But I like global shipping. It's easy for me. Now, whether the customer likes it or not, I'm not 100% certain. I've heard they pay a little bit more. I know that certain size packages, they pay a little bit more. Typically, first class low price items, let's say $50, $40, $30, $20, $15 items, light items, typically when they go to a country, they slip through customs. They don't get taxed. They don't get examined. They don't have any problems with them. They slip right through to the person. The person doesn't pay duty on those. It is my understanding, though, if you use global shipping for everything, every item is duty-tized. So that's a disservice to the customer on the other end. It's a little bit like internet sales tax, you know. We don't handle all internet sales tax issues, but somebody would like us to, and sooner or later it's probably going to happen with computers and the way things work. Right now there's duty. In other words, if I send a product to Germany and it gets there, German customs looks at that $100 item and it says, okay, we're going to deliver this, send them a note. And Deerdorf gets a note, says your $100 item is here, but you owe us $140. And of course it's going to be in German marks. So Deerdorf comes over, pays his 100 plus 40 duty, and he gets his item, right? Well, if it's a small enough item, Deerdorf doesn't pay any duty. But $100 items, they get tagged. In global shipping, I think they all do. So we have just avoided some of that for our customers by just doing regular shipping. Our camera channel, 90% of our international packages are low dollar and low weight, and they slide right through customs, mainly because of the low dollar and low weight. If we go global shipping, I'm afraid that we will lose some customers. They'll be like, okay, I used to pay $10 for your item and $13.75 to ship it to me, and now they want another $6 duty on that too. Ain't gonna do it. So anyway, if this is too abstract or whatever, start doing some international shipping and you'll pick up on some of this stuff, okay? I didn't mean to get deep. So global shipping is a good program, very streamlined. If you're a first-time international shipper, I would recommend doing global shipping. If you're not doing any international shipping at all, global shipping is pretty simple. It takes a lot of the pain out of it. You will get more sales. You will get sales to international places, and for the most part, eBay takes care of the sellers in global shipping. I haven't had many problems at all with global shipping. I don't think anything's ever been damaged or lost. Now, I have Googled global shipping. I have Googled problems with global shipping. I have heard of problems with global shipping. However, you don't necessarily hear a whole lot of praise for global shipping. It's one of those things. The problems rise to the top. We don't really know how many problems versus good experiences there are. I am pro global shipping, at least on 2 of my channels. So, one other thing to talk about global shipping, I'll just get it out there. My understanding, when I ship that package to Kentucky, it's some sort of a sorting area, right? Sometimes they might repack those things. I don't know what they do, but they end up in a container, and when there's enough of them, and it probably happens pretty quick because eBay's high volume, that container of some kind goes to the coast and goes to the country. And at the country end, it gets resorted and delivered locally. Now, somehow, I believe eBay makes more money on that. And am I against eBay making more money on global shipping? No, I'm not. Why? Well, they pay the price. I mean, if I buy a pallet of bread, okay, let's say it's 400 loaves of bread, and I pay 25 cents a loaf, are you going to be mad at me if I go to stores and charge them 50? And they charge you $2? No, the person who does the volume work gets the volume discount. So good for you, eBay. I'm not mad at you at all. If you make a better way to ship it, if you can handle some of the risk and you want some of the reward, I'm all for that. So there you go. Global shipping. What else? Maybe it'll come up again in this talk. I am pro global shipping, however, not necessarily for low-end packages, mainly because the way the customs thing works. Have I considered my camera channel going to global shipping? I've considered it because in reality I think it would be less stress. But I'm considering all aspects of it, and I think it's part of in the rut, not willing to change unless I'm made to change. And would I, if I was made to change, would I change without holding a grudge? Probably so. I'm not on the fence, but I'm not necessarily against it. I just want to do business in these countries, and I want repeat buyers, and I want to do the best for people that they deserve. And I'm not against paying taxes. I'm not against paying duty. I am going to talk about some things around those subjects that I don't like, but that's different than I'm against it, okay? You have to understand. Okay. Whew, take a breath. PayPal address versus eBay address. Okay, I use Indicia to print my shipping labels, okay? I used to use eBay, and I used to use PayPal from time to time directly. Then I discovered Indicia, and I don't know why I like it other than I do like it. It does autocorrect addresses. It does keep a list, a running tab of all my customers. It does some other things pretty well. It lines up with the printers I have, and I use it, okay? So Indicia is nothing more than an overlay software product where I can put the addresses from either PayPal or from eBay in there. Now, on international orders, you're going to get a PayPal address, and it can look all levels of crazy. Depending on what country you're shipping to, right? I don't know why they haven't figured some of this out, or standardized some of it, and maybe they have. Maybe it's just difficult, or there's some things I don't understand. But sometimes addresses come through on PayPal with missing information. Okay, I think some people are typing it in when they place the order as opposed to it's stored in their PayPal. Different countries have different levels of PayPal-ish. Unverified orders, verified orders, using a credit card for the first time, live out in the sticks, live in a city, I don't know. But a lot of the orders that come through on PayPal, if you just use that PayPal address, you may not get the full address. You may not get the apartment number or whatever they call it in different countries. You may not get the country or country code. What you need to do, though, is go back into eBay and look at the contact information or the order details information. And the nice thing about the order details information is it spells it out. Here's the block where the name is supposed to be, and if you can't even understand the name, or it's all symbols from possibly an Asian country, or if it's like backwards writing or Arabic or any of these names that you can't pronounce or can't tell what the first name or the last name is, or even if it is a name or it's a real long one, it's in the name block. Same with the street, what's supposed to be the street, line 1, 2, 3. The city, the state, the country code, and importantly, and I don't know if I'll probably talk about this in a little while, the phone number. So you can double check what's on PayPal versus what's in there, and you can copy and paste or whatever you need to do to get some of that information on there. Okay? I like checking both of those if it's a country that I have a question on. Some addresses are really messy. I'll talk about that in a little while and try to make some heads or tails of some of that. Some are very straightforward, or at least they make sense to people in the United States, okay? I mean, we have name, street, city, state, zip, for the most part. Sometimes there's business addresses with business names. Sometimes there's suite. Sometimes there's I'm in the back alley next to Joe. But for the most part, for us in the United States, it's easy to follow. Now, many countries follow that same format for the most part. I would say probably 20, 30, 40% of the countries have upside down or crazy ass addresses for what we're used to, right? They probably think ours are crazy. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to debate that. But from my standpoint, if you need to check those, go into the eBay record and then you can get a little more information. Occasionally, I will cut a piece of the address and a name and Google it. And a lot of times, if it's one of these crazy addresses, you'll pull up a person and you'll be able to verify that address. And all of a sudden, you'll get a suite number associated with it that wasn't on there. You can Google it and you will find these people, even with the craziest addresses. Or you can use Google Translate. That's another thing that sometimes can decode addresses. Okay, enough on that. Costs rising. It wasn't too many years ago that you could ship something internationally from the United States for like $6. I think that was the starting cost, $6. It's now, my cost, $13.25 for an ounce, 2 ounces. People say, why don't you send stuff in an envelope? Well, you're not supposed to. It's supposed to be a package, right? That's another discussion. Some countries are still stuck that you can send a camera in an envelope and try to pretend it's a letter. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Some people live on the far side of the moon, apparently. So anyway, the costs have been rising. Some countries, unbelievable. Australia used to be a $6 and something base cost, up to like 8 ounces or 6 ounces. And I think they got into the $22.75 or whatever group pretty quickly. That, some countries are just terrible, and they still buy stuff. I don't relish that for them. So one thing about postage, costs are always rising. So international shipping does come with risks. I'll give you an example though that makes it worth it for us. In the United States, on most of our camera stuff, on our main camera channel, we have free shipping to the United States. So free shipping to the United States can cost me anywhere from $3 to $30. Okay, if I'm shipping something heavy to Alaska or Hawaii, sometimes free shipping costs me $30. But it might be a $200 item, it might be a $150 item where I don't have much in it. It might go to a state right next to me and cost me $11. Sometimes it's the luck of the draw. Do I want the sale? Sure. So in the United States, I'm shipping stuff out free, but it still costs me. Now, if I ship stuff internationally, I don't pick up the shipping, and so right there, the free shipping that I would have shipped that item to in the United States, all of a sudden comes back to me, and the person international pays for the full shipping. For example, $10 item, I ship it to the United States, it cost me $3. My net is right there is only $7. But if I ship that $10 item internationally, somebody's going to pay $13 to ship it. I'm back at a net of $10. Okay, so that helps the risk for us a little bit of international shipping. Extra packaging, let's talk about that. I'm going to have to stop and start. Okay, extra packaging. Now, I have shipped things in the United States that get beat to crap. It looks like a tank ran over them. It looks like they got put at the bottom of a well and 1,000,000 pounds of gravel got thrown on them. Some of those things that you get back and they're like, oh, we're sorry, it's damaged, and it's just like flattened or it's not even in there, It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it does. Sometimes things in the United States end up broken when they arrive, and the person, messages you, hey, it ain't working, it's broken, something's broken here, it looks like it's been run over, it looks like nothing's wrong to the box, but it looks like it's broken, it's been shook up. So stuff in the United States can get manhandled or woman-handled. Got to be proper. So, get handled, ape-handled. Anyway, international shipping, depending on where you go, depending on the day of the week, depending on how long that thing spends on planes, trains, boats and automobiles, in people's buggies, how many belts it's traveled, how many weeks it's traveled, that needs a little better packing. We have gotten things back from international shipping that have been out there for 3 months, even 7 months. And when they come back, if it's a little bit of a heavy item, small item in a bigger box, when they come back, you can tell that thing's been rolling around in there so long that the packing material has just expanded and that thing is just loose in there. It's been in there so long, and it's been rolling around on belts and people's pouches and camels and who knows what for so long that packing material has lost its ability to hold that thing in place. So international shipping, I tend to wrap things with one extra piece of bubble wrap. I tend to pack them a little bit tighter. I tend to put a box on there that I know is going to handle the rough international shipping. I won't ship with cheap boxes internationally. I will not ship envelopes unless the envelope has a box inside of it. Small envelopes get lost. Small envelopes, I don't know. I think the elephant sits on them. I've had trouble in the past with small envelopes. And so I use a little extra packaging. I use good boxes. I use boxes inside envelopes occasionally, especially like a box inside a Priority Mail envelope. I'll do that internationally. I just figured that one out fairly recently, that Priority Mail, box inside a Priority Mail envelope, isn't much more than first class in some cases, and for expensive stuff it's a good way to get it there faster rather than waiting 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 weeks. You can pay $5 more and sleep easy at night on a $200, $300, $400 item. Okay, so eBay box versus plain boxes versus like coloring big smiley faces, putting stickers all over boxes, wrapping them up like a piñata. I prefer to use my eBay shipping boxes that I get free for having a store subscription. I prefer to use those in the United States. I don't know why, but I think internationally you're best making that package look as plain Jane, least eye-grabbing, boring as possible. That's it. I think an eBay package in certain places of the world would be like a beacon for steal me. I think in some places eBay packages are rarer. Now I could be wrong, but we do ship to third world countries. Nothing against third world countries. When I ship to India, I think an eBay package would stick out. Okay? So I use plain Jane packaging. Customs duty, okay. And trade percent differences. Don't get me started on this. I better check my watch. Okay, so things are changing. Things are dynamic. For example, I don't know why, but Australia just decided to start taxing anything that comes into their state, their country, 10%. Right across the board. Had one customer buy something, then say, whoa, they're charging me 10%. I'm not doing it. Please refund my money. I'm like, well, I don't blame you. Shipping's already 22 something and the product was 13 something. You don't want to pay 10% on that? I think their beef, and I'm not positive on this, but this is what they told me, their beef was the 10% is not only in Australia on the product, but it's also on the shipping. So they add that on there. So I don't know if that's the case or not, but I gladly refunded his money, and I said, hey, whatever, come on back when things change for the better. So some countries, I do not have a list, although I bet you could Google it. I bet you could get some sort of a list. Some countries have high customs duty. Your $100 item shows up there and they tack like $60 on it. So that item for the person doesn't cost $100 US, it costs $160 plus shipping. Wow! When stuff comes into the United States, we don't do that. How do I feel about that? Well, if my item, my $100 item, is going to a country where they charge another $60 on it, that makes it, and plus shipping, that makes it pretty hard to compete unless you got one heck of a sparkly item, right? So I don't like it. I would like if there was a fair trade situation. I think it's possible that we're going to see some changes in this in the future. I think the United States is going to get a fair shake in this, possibly, in the future. I'm not against that. Because if I buy something from Germany for $100 and it comes into here, they can sell that all day long for $100. When I send my thing to them for $100 and they tack a $60 bill on that, it's $160. Which way do you think the trade's going to flow there? Not my way. Now, it's more complicated than that. I understand. I'm simplifying it. I'm not sour grapes. But here's one thing I'm sour grapes about. Okay. How the heck does somebody sell something for 29 cents free shipping from China to the United States? I know for a fact that China somehow has some sort of green light to sell things to the United States. One of us is not getting a good deal. If I'm in China shipping to US, it don't cost me much for shipping. If I ship from the US to China, oh my goodness. It's like 100 times more, I think. How does that work? Hey, Trumpster, work on that one. And I think he is. There's this trade war in the news, and unless you dig a little bit, you're only going to get a glimpse of what's going on. There's some wheeling and dealing going on. Now, the other thing that's coming down the pipeline, and I don't know the full extent of it, but it's been coming down the pipeline for a long time, is the sales tax issue. When you sell stuff out of state, who collects the sales tax, who's charging the sales tax, who's paying the sales tax, who's not paying the sales tax, who's doing all the bookkeeping on the sales tax. Well, the global shipping thing is sort of like that, and one day we might have a global tax. Won't that be exciting? Every country will have a different tax. Every state will have a different tax. We'll be taxed to death, but more importantly, we'll be bookworked to death. Unless the AI computer can handle all this, all we have to do is plug into the tentacles. Plug me in, I want to do business. Those kind of things could keep you up at night. But day to day, we just keep plugging away. We won't get in there, right? So customs duty, trade percentage differences. Some countries pay less postage, some pay more postage. Some charge huge duty, some charge no duty. It really doesn't matter. Put your best stuff out there and sell it. Our best stuff still goes to the worst countries. And the worst thing that can happen, though, is when somebody gets their thing, whatever it is, and it's either broken or misdescribed or they don't like it. Then you can get into some a little bit problems when they're sitting there with this thing that they paid $100 for, and they paid $60 customs, and they paid $35 to ship it. There is the crux of the downside of international shipping. That's called built-in risks for doing international. But if you do enough international shipping, those cases are small enough where it still pays to do it. Okay? That's the bottom line. But it can happen. So if you ship once in a great while internationally and you just happen to ship high risky things that either break often, are hard to describe, or people are unhappy with often, you may not want to ship those internationally. One example that we stopped selling and we stopped shipping internationally after 3 or 4 failures internationally were movie projectors. We would buy a movie projector for $5. We'd try it out. It looks like it runs, Wheeler. And we'd ship it to the U.S. And in the U.S., it would cost us maybe $30 if something went wrong. When you ship it internationally, you might be on the hook for $100 because of the weight, because of the customs duty, because they ain't going to ship it back, and you don't get your thing back. We stopped shipping those because they were prone for problems. So you don't want to send your problem type items potentially overseas. And the language barrier. And projectors, guess what? Most people don't remember how to use them, so you got a user error there too. Those were the worst. Those are the things that nightmares are made of. We stopped selling those, even though they're plentiful. Some people in the United States buy those projectors, certain ones, and they top to bottom refurbish them, and they sell them for good money, but they know they work, and they pack them right. So there is a business opportunity there. Not for us. Okay. Woo! It's like all one sentence coming out of my mouth. That's a run-on sentence. Countries that are good to ship to versus countries that are bad to ship to. Well, from my experience, it changes a little bit, but most countries are okay. Now, I've had bad luck with Mexico. I've had bad luck with South America. I've had bad luck with Chile. I've had bad luck with Argentina, Brazil. I've had bad luck with South America. Lately, I haven't had the greatest luck with Germany for some reason. Mainly with things bouncing back at me. They seem to have gone through a switch in the last couple of years. Hit or miss, 50-50. Let's see. Good countries, I love to ship to Japan. I don't have trouble there. I haven't had that much trouble shipping to China. I don't ship a lot there. I haven't had that much trouble ever shipping to Australia. I haven't had much trouble shipping to Indonesia. Taiwan, pretty easy. South Korea, pretty easy. Let's see. India, I feel a little crazy shipping to India, mostly because their addresses are like a mile long with all kinds of, they don't have a street. They have a street, building, apartment, this part of the apartment, that part of the building. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty scary from that standpoint. There's just a lot that could go wrong as far as I'm concerned. It's like, I don't necessarily like shipping $100 items or more to apartments in the United States without a signature. I feel like that when I ship something internationally to India. I feel every place I ship to India is like an apartment, but you can't get a signature. By the way, I use the United States Post Office 99% of the time. I have shipped to Canada using UPS. UPS tends to cost more. I'm sure it's 100% great, but I only ship UPS International when it's something of size or great value. Okay, what else? Good countries versus bad to ship to. For the most part, international experience has been good. The United States, I probably have trouble with 1% or less of my packages. Internationally, it's probably 2%. Maybe as high as 2.5% of my packages I have some sort of issue with. So it's worse, but it's not significantly worse. That is just off the top of my head. I don't know what trouble means when I say I have trouble with. It's low. It's low, low, low. Damage. Okay. Here's how I treat international. I do my best to get that product there. If I have damage, or if somebody doesn't like their product, or if they say it's been damaged, if it is a lower cost item, I refund their money. That's it. I might look at their feedback. I might ask them some questions. I might see if there's something they can do. I don't want the product back. I don't want to submit a claim. If there's a problem with it, it's not resolvable for a $13 item. Now, don't tell all my customers. I think most people that buy from me are on the up and up. Okay? I believe customers are honest enough to get a product and they will tell me if it's good or bad. I believe in people. Now, occasionally there are scammers out there. Occasionally there are people who will abuse the system. Some people, customer's always right, all that kind of stuff. That is a small percentage. Internationally, I just let all that go, and that's on low cost items. Now, damage to higher cost items, then you got to work with the customer, then you got to work with the country, then you've got to work with the USPS and go through their channels if you want a chance of either getting that item back or getting some sort of a damage thing. I haven't had that much trouble. When I send something expensive overseas, I pad and wrap that thing and do everything I can to make that thing get there in one piece. I'll have an example in the examples that I'm going to give at the end of this talk about one recently that didn't make it. But in the last 6 months, I have sent 2 lenses that were big and brass and heavy with thick glass. 2 of them, $2,000 each, give or take, with no trouble. Thank goodness. And I sent some $3,000 lens weird Nikon thing to Japan with no trouble. Thank goodness. Did I feel good about it? No, I felt weird bringing that because I'm like, oh boy. Did I like the money? Sure, I like the money, but it did seem risky. That feeling never goes away, at least for me. But they all made it, and I got a sale out of it, and whoever got those things, they either told me they were happy, or they were happy, or I haven't heard from them. So I'm assuming they're happy. Okay. Insurance. Now, the post office will offer insurance. I have found that insurance is probably, over the long haul, not the best idea. Now, you can do what you want, but if the post office is offering insurance, you can bet they've done the odds and they're going to charge you more than their damage rate. So if you ship a lot of things, if you are a better shipper than an average shipper, in other words, you package your things better, you address them better, you have better responsiveness, timeliness, communication, all those things, you're going to beat the odds in the long run. And if you pay insurance on everything, you're just paying more. Will you take a kick to the nuts once in a while? Will you take a punch to the face once in a while? Will you break a leg or a nail once in a while? Heck yeah. But you don't want to pay for that insurance. I used to pay for that insurance through Endicia, and I did it on higher price things until I realized that the fine print on that, which is probably similar to the fine print on the post office, excludes a lot of things, and my chances of getting a claim on those items was not as good as I wanted, and the time involved and the documentation involved and all that, I was like, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to realize that they offer the insurance because they know it's a win for them. They have this many claims and they charge this many dollars every time they sell you, Insurance, they're making money on you. So insurance is not a scam. It's a service, but it's a service that you can decide on. I've decided not to do it anymore. Now, if I lose an $1,800 lens, I probably will be kicking myself in the butt all around my yard for a month, but I'll get over it. Okay, where are we at here? Let's pause and go on. 20-minute limit on my camera before it self-explodes. Maybe this is the last segment. I'm still under an hour, thank goodness. Now, some of you are probably like, oh, come on, dealer, give it all to us. Keep going, 5-hour show. And some of you are like, oh, when's this guy going to be over? I don't know why the ones that would be like, oh, when's this guy going to stop talking? Why you'd still be watching, but that's the way the world is. Some people just can't turn it off. They just have to have it turn off for them, I guess. I don't know. Weird addresses, long addresses, upside down addresses. Okay. Now, international shipping, you will get weird addresses. This is why global shipping is good for beginners, because all the addresses go right to Kentucky, eBay Kentucky Sort Center, and they deal with it. You don't even need to worry. But if you deal with raw international addresses, some are crazy. Some won't fit all the characters, and you have to choose what you're going to cut. So you have to get smart on that. I cannot give you a tutorial on that, but some things can be abbreviated. Some things can be taken out. Some things need to be pushed from the long line, wherever the long line is. You got to cut them and move them to another line, right? You only have 5 or 6 lines. I don't know how many you have. I should know that. Is it 5 or is it 6? I don't know, but you only have so many lines and you only have so much width, at least on my label printer. And I believe there's a standard because the post office converts all those characters to that barcode. It only has so much room available. Okay, certain addresses, China and some other Asian countries, for example, use a format that is upside down. The name's at the top, but then the next line is the country code or the country, then the state, then the city, then the street. And so it seems inverted. Well, sometimes on PayPal it comes through sort of as inverted, and if I copy that and put that in my indicia, it doesn't go through. They're like, this is missing stuff. It's wrong. And if you go back to the eBay portion, though, then it will be in the US format. I typically will put the address and rebuild it in indicia in the US format, okay? I do my best to do that, and then when it says we like it, it's valid, I will take however they put it on the PayPal, and I will take it and put it in a word processor that does not convert it to English. It keeps it as it is, whether it's symbols or whether it's gibberish or whether it's super long or crazy. Whatever is in there, I will put it in my word processor that does not change it, does not autofill it, does not auto change it. I will up the size a little bit. I will print it, cut it out. I will tape it on the side of the box. I will take the label that I put on there and I will put an arrow from the address around and down the side of the box as an added thing. I have found that that works really well with Chinese characters. I don't like to change them. I like when my package goes to China with a US formatted Chinese address, they look at that and they're like, oh, not another US formatted Chinese address. And then they see the arrow and they go there and they look and it's all the Chinese characters and they go, oh, thank goodness, I love those. And then they can deliver it easier, right? Okay. Whew. Long addresses, weird addresses. Yeah, there's weird addresses. Be prepared. You might have to do some digging. Now, worst case, you can email or message the person and say, does this look right? And just message them the whole thing and say, does this look right? Will this get to you? And they might give you some tidbits on there. Now, you do have to be careful, because if you don't send to the PayPal verified address, you might not get cookies and milk. But sometimes you want it to get there too, so you'll have to make the compromise on that. You'll have to make some decisions on that. Somebody with 3,000 feedback telling me that, no, this is the address, not how it's on PayPal, you should add XYZ to it, I'm going to go with that rather than put it exactly as it comes through on PayPal, because I want it to get there. Now, a zero feedback buyer that tells me to send it to a different place from Ethiopia or Nigeria, I might have a problem with that. I might ask some questions, I might look some things up, I might say, no, I can only send it to the verified address, and I'm sorry, I can't send you the $1,800 lens. Okay? One other quick thing, people will ask you to declare items. A $100 item, they'll ask you to declare it for $10 on the customs. They'll ask you to send things as a gift on customs form. You will have to decide what you want to do on that. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what I do. You'll have to decide. I like to keep it on the up and up. I like to make it all legal and business-wise. You're going to have to make some decisions, but people will ask. Phone numbers on addresses. I think this is critical, and I did not start doing this until maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. Probably a year ago, I started doing it all the time. Now, on PayPal, they got rid of the phone numbers. There are very few emails and phone numbers directly on the new PayPal format. If you go to the classic format, which you can with a link on there, sometimes some of those things like phone numbers and PayPal emails are still on there. But if you go into the eBay order information for that order, most of the time the phone number is in there. You should copy and paste that phone number, and what I do is I put it, the name, 2-3 spaces, then I put the phone number. And if you really want to get good, when you print that label and put it on there, highlight the darn phone number. That way, if there's any question on the address in the country on the receiving end, some of those people in those countries will take the time to call the person rather than send the item back. Not all countries, not some high volume big city type places, but a lot of countries operate at a slower pace than us, and a lot of people have the smartphones only. Of course, in the United States it's went to that too. People are reachable. Hey, we got your package here, come on down. That phone number solves a problem. We have had a lot less returns and a lot less problems since we started doing that. Okay, send in a box. Some of these things just get on my list. I don't send envelopes unless it's a box and an envelope. Send in a box, a sturdy box. It doesn't get lost. It doesn't fall between the cracks. It doesn't get sat on by an elephant and stuck to the elephant's butt and whisked off with his tail. I don't know what, but envelopes are too light, too skinny, too whatever. They get bound up in some of the machinery in some of these countries. Some of the hand sorts. Who knows what goes on? Boxes. Small boxes. Make sure the labels do not go over the side of the box so that they get stuck on another box and get ripped right off. Make sure your labels are on there good too. Language barrier. Well, the language barrier used to be much tougher. With Google Translate, which you can just type into Google or your search engine, you can type in Google Translate and you can translate a lot of things, either from eBay messages back and forth or addresses or anything else that you come across. As long as you can copy and paste it in there, you're going to get an idea of what's going on. Google Translate has not been available for all that long in the whole scope of things, but it does make life easier. There's a much less of an language barrier. You will get some messages from people on eBay that eBay actually has a translate on there, and sometimes that's helpful and sometimes that's not. The weirdest and the worst thing about answering questions for me on eBay, a little annoying, is when you answer a question like that, sometimes it kicks you out and you have to sign back into eBay, except you're trying now to sign into eBay Japan or eBay Germany, and you can't do it with your auto sign in. They won't let you sign in that. So then you got to go back and click on some sort of icon to get back to eBay USA and sign back in. I don't know. It's a funny little glitch that they have crossover messages, right? We do a lot of international question answering too, so we get into that from time to time. Insurance, I already talked about that. Taping addresses on the side, I already talked about that. Man, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. I think that's all my topics here. Now, if there are questions on what I've covered here, something I didn't cover, you can leave those down below, and when we get to the question and answer show Wheeler and I will do, I will follow up with those, even if it's another big topic about international shipping, okay? I will attempt to follow up. So I hope this has been good. Now I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 examples that will encompass some of these things that I've talked about. I'm going to try to go reasonably rapid fire. I'm trying to hold this to an hour. I think it'll go over a little bit, but we'll see. If you like this stuff, stick around, right? Okay, underwater case. So we found a camera case that goes around an old camera, probably from the 1930s or 40s, one of the first underwater cases. You want to take pictures underwater in the 1930s and 40s? You need a big iron diving suit, first of all, and then you need this big, crazy, heavy enclosure with thick glass and everything else. We found one of those, and it sold for $300, and we shipped it, I think, to Italy, which I was a little nervous about because it was like 20 pounds. And the guy paid like $80 to ship it there, and we shipped it, and about a month later he's like, hey, I didn't get it. And I look at the tracking, sure enough, it's dead in the water. Can't tell what the heck's going on, you know. It went first class. No, it didn't. It went priority, but it was dead in the water. Bring it to my postmaster. They're like, I don't know, you know. And I talked to the guy, and he's like, all right, well, wait. And my standard response used to be, hey, we got to wait. And so we waited, and he never contacted me back. And about 3 months later, 3 months total, 12 weeks, that thing showed up, and it had a bunch of scribbling on there. I couldn't tell. They paste a big label over there, couldn't find your person, whatever they're saying in Italian, and there I'm sitting with it. So it goes in a pile for a while, and I wait for the person to contact me, and if they don't contact me, I contact them eventually. So eventually I contacted this person, and it was another 3 months, and the guy finally gets back to me. He's like, yeah, you know, I think this guy like scuba dives around the world or something. It never showed up. Thanks for your message. Send it again. And so he sent me some more money. I sent it again, and it took 3 more months, and he got it. Oh, it took almost a year to get this thing to him. And he paid for all the shipping, and I had all the money, and I never relisted it, but that can happen. So what good is that example to you? I don't know. Tripod example. Okay, so I'm not going to move this camera, but in this corner here, there's one of these big Kodak hood over your head, flash bulb with like fire shooting out of it, old time cameras, and it sits on one of these big 150-pound 3-leg with rollers and tilt. It sits on one of these big wood tripods with cast iron legs, right? Well, I had one of those for the longest time, and I wanted to sell it, so I took it all apart. And why did I take it apart? I don't remember. I took it all apart so I could ship it, okay? And it was not that hard to take apart. It's just a bunch of old bolts and screws and things like that. But all the boxes, 3 boxes to ship this thing, were pushing the limits of priority mail. both on size and on weight and on size, especially internationally. And this person was willing to pay $550 for the tripod and $350 to ship it. So I did it because I wanted to get rid of this thing. Well, cast iron doesn't ship well. So they dropped it, they broke it, on and on and on, all busted up. But the problem is, I knew what they would say 100% was it was not packaged properly. And you know what? It wasn't. Because I couldn't. The tolerances were so tight. I went 1 inch more when I was estimating this thing. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get it in that box. I went 1 inch more, and the volume was more than I could ship. So I had to send that thing bare bones more than I would have if I would have sent it, if I would have had more room. I would have packed it bigger. So I shouldn't have did it. So 2 out of the 3 boxes, the cast iron was broke. He's like, oh, I'm gonna weld the cast iron, or I'm gonna fix the cast iron legs. I can't get these dang things into my country. There's none of them around. It's Kodak. There's just none of them around. But it's going to cost me some money. So we agreed on something. By the end of it, instead of getting $500 for it, I think I got $150 for it after I refunded some money. He sent pictures. He was a legitimate buyer. It was a pain in the butt packaging it. I think there's a video on it somewhere in our back catalog. Who knows if I could find it or you could find it. But that was a mess. Don't send heavy, brittle things that you can't pack well enough overseas. You will be disappointed. You're asking for trouble. Don't be tempted to do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth the heartache. There was heartache. I was so excited and jubilant to get this thing out of my office. And then the crushingness of it, with the pictures and the messages back, it's broken. The person was destroyed. Oh, I've been waiting for this. I paid so much. It's broken. It wasn't worth it. So if you get one of these big ass tripods, you're going to have to get creative to sell it. I've got another one right now. I'm not shipping, but I am going to sell it. I already have a buyer. I just have to take it somewhere. And I don't get as much for it, but I don't have to worry about shipping it and taking it apart. Cooler. We had a pink Coleman, nice metal, plastic bottom cooler. Shipped it to Japan. Put it in there. I don't know what they did to it. I think 2 people put on football helmets and ran at it and crushed it between their heads, or maybe a rhinoceros got hold of it. But that cooler got beat to crap. And I'm like, I've had the cooler forever. This person really wanted it. It was in such nice condition. They were so excited. I was glad to get it out of here. I made some money on it. Well, I've only pursued like 3 or 4 claims with USPS. I decided to try the system again, and the online system and all that was better than I thought. There was some waiting. There was some paperwork. I did have to take some pictures of it beforehand. I had to have them submit something on their end. It was a hassle. I got a check for $200 some. I think I documented that a few weeks ago when I got the check. So claims are possible when you're in the right. Now, certain items are going to tell you didn't pack them well enough, or certain items are going to deny the claim, or certain items aren't worth it. But this, I knew I was in the right. I pursued it. I probably didn't get paid that much per dollar of sweat hours on it, but I won the claim. Now, disclaimer. I think USPS is great. I think they do a good job internationally. I don't think they break a lot of stuff. I'm not mad at them, but on this one, they really screwed up and they paid out. So thank you very much. Okay, radio controlled car, high end, to the Russian Federation. These people really had to have this particular four-wheel drive, cool, radio controlled truck body. And it was beat up, and it was one of these ones that news like $600 or $800, and I think they paid $100, $150 for it. It needed some work, and it was like $90 to ship it to the Russian Federation. And we ship it there, and then I get a message, hey, I don't know what happened, but it seems like it's coming back to you. And I'm like, shnikes. Because when something comes back like that, a lot of times to resend it, you got to pay again, right? So on this particular one, it came back, and on there, and if there's an address problem or your person didn't pick it up, it's a gray area. You're kind of involved in that. You can be a grumpy old person or a grumpy person about it, but in a lot of cases, it's sort of like, okay, you made a mistake. I'll reach in my wallet, whatever. Let's just get it to you. Everybody's going to be happy. You'll be a repeat customer. I do that when something's $5, $10, $20. I don't care. But when it's $80, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know you really want this thing. That's terrible. So it comes back. It says it has this little battery sticker on it. Can't send stuff with batteries to Russia. Okay. So I'm like, I don't think this thing has any batteries. It's a gas-powered remote control car, okay? So I pull up the manual online, and I'm like, okay, well, there is a servo battery somewhere in there. So I take this thing all apart. It's not in there. They made an assumption that there was a battery in there, and they sent it back after I paid $80 postage from Russia. So I contacted my postmaster, who I have a good relationship with, and I said, look, can you do something about this? And she helped me resend it again with an explanation that there are no batteries and I did not have to pay again, and it got there and they were super happy. It just took 6 weeks back and forth, all that kind of crap. So the moral of the story there is be careful with some of those things, but look them over, because I was able to find leverage in what happened there. It wasn't just that it was a bad address or they forgot to pick it up, or it snowstormed and it got thrown on the wrong truck and came back. I had leverage because of the battery thing. Leverage in making my case in not having to pay that postage again. Okay, 2 last examples. A small item, mistake. So let's say it's a $10 or $20 or $30 or $40 item. You send it to an international country. They get it. It's the wrong item. It's misrepresented. Something you didn't notice wasn't right or broke off. It's missing a piece and you didn't know about it. We're going to go into a 4th session here. But something's wrong with that item, okay? And it's really as a seller, it's your oversight, it's your fault, okay? What do you do? Well, what I do on small items, first of all, I want the customer to be happy, okay? I sell enough items. I try to represent them 100%. I don't believe in, dropping stuff on people. I don't believe in unhappy customers if it's for sure legit, and I go into the gray area. If I can't tell, well, I'm still going to side with the customer. If it's obviously something ridiculous, I'm going to get a little more into asking questions and resolving the issue with a partial, I mean, there's some things I will question. Gray areas, whatever, I side with the customer. So what do I do on small items? Do I have them return it from an international country? Do I have them keep it? Do I try to send them a replacement? Well, most of the time I don't have a replacement. Sometimes I do. Most of the time I don't have a replacement. I will try to make that customer happy. Typically, I will refund their money plus the shipping. They keep the item. They remember that. A lot of times they come back. Now, there are some customers I don't want to come back because they're too picky. But you can't control that necessarily. I have banned a few customers on my do not buy list, but those are few and far in between. Some of those people get verbal with you, whatever. You don't want them to be a customer, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they got something and they took a little panel off and it was all corroded in there and we didn't check it. That's our fault. Refund, keep it, come back again. Sorry, I don't have something, or I'll ship them something else or whatever. That costs me money. That's a bad cost for me. That's something I don't like. But what I don't want to do is have them send it back. I don't want to pay shipping back on a $10 or $20 item when the shipping is $10 or $20. That doesn't make any sense. Some items, even if it's a $40 item and you send it to them and there turns out to be something wrong with it, what are you going to do with that $40 item? It's worth nothing. You're not going to pay to ship that back. So you have to be discerning. I think out of 100% of those situations, 80% of them are refund the money, keep the item. The other 20% you might have to ask more questions or it might be questionable. They might be trying to scam you, but there's not a lot of that. There's just not a lot of it from my standpoint. I sleep okay at night. Okay, last example, higher dollar return items. We don't have a lot of higher dollar return items. I don't know why. We have a few. Now the worst ones are when you have like $100 or more item and you ship it to one of these countries where they pay the duty and they're in that item for big bucks. In fact, they're in it for more than you have in it. You have to do some calculations if it's worth getting that thing back. Now it may be. But I've had items where, I don't know, I have $50 in it, my cost. I send it to them for $100. The shipping is $30. The import is $60. In order to pay them off and get that thing back, you might have to pay them $100 out of your pocket. That's ridiculous. But you still have to do it once in a while because you pay that $100 to get it back. Then you can resell it again for $100 and you can get closer to or break even. But you got to sometimes do the calculations on that and see if it makes sense. Okay? I like expensive items back. I don't like the unknown factor on expensive items. So I may go to a greater length to get a more expensive item back than I certainly would on a low item that just has no value or the shipping outweighs it so much. Nobody's going to get me on a high-priced item that, doesn't necessarily have anything wrong with it, but they're too picky or anything like that. So higher-priced items, we do ship enough of them overseas, and I would have to say out of the 1,000 we've done over the last 10 years, higher-priced items, like, I don't know, say $150 or more, maybe we've done 1,000 of them overseas. Maybe that's a little high, maybe that's a little low. I've probably only had memorable weird problems with 10 of them or something. And you just address them, you do the best you can, you open up the lines of communication, the customers needs to be happy, you got to realize they're probably disappointed. You make it happen one way or another. There's not a lot of those problems when they happen. It's a thing in your throat. You want to kick yourself around the yard. You want to hit yourself in the head a little bit. You want to drink a beer, shot of whiskey. You want to start your foot on fire. I don't know what you do in those situations, but you got to get through them and move on. Okay? All right, last point. Wherever you do your USPS shipping, you should make a point to know those people. The counter people, I know all my counter people very, very well. They change quite a bit, but I know them all very well. I make them laugh. They like me. I talk to them. I ask them how their day is going. I'm cordial with them. I help a little bit with whatever our transaction is by moving stuff around, asking where they want it, whatever, I'm good to those counter people. And I also have a first name relationship with my postmaster. I've went through 3 postmasters since I've been here, and they've all been pretty good people, very busy people, but I've been on first name basis. I've been in their office. We talk about things once in a while. We have conversations about things non-postal. We're pretty close as far as business contacts. Now they know I do a lot of business with them, and in the right way, I let them know I do a lot of business with them. But they know that's their job. I'm probably a top 10 in the area or whatever. They know I'm a big account for them, so they want to keep me happy. But sometimes, if you're in a bigger city or whatever, you need to maybe figure out how to do that bond with them a little bit. But that postmaster has access to information you do not. They can bend the rules. They can get things done. They can inquire on things. They can help you with all kinds of different things, especially international. You don't want to waste their time. You do not want to ask them questions about every tracking number. You want to choose your battles. You want to value their time. You want to do it on the high price things. You want to do it on, things that matter. You don't want to nitpick them on every little thing. You don't want to be negative to them about every little thing. You don't want to tell them about every little terrible thing. But when a big thing comes up, larger dollar, bigger situation, timely thing you want help on, and you've built that relationship, that is the person you want on your side. Not just artificially, but hey, you have a relationship with them. You could drink a beer with them almost, You want them to help you, they want to help you. They're your buddies almost. My postmaster is almost like my buddy. Almost. It is a business relationship. However, very, very important. If you haven't built that kind of a relationship with your postal people, you need to start doing that, because it doesn't happen in one conversation. It doesn't happen in one trip to the counter. It doesn't happen in one thank you. It's something that you build. But that will pay dividends. That's part of the reason that I get some of these larger issues solved quickly, and maybe not always on my side, but for sure on my customer's side, and sometimes on my side. My wallet doesn't always hurt, doesn't always get dinged. Okay, so I hope you found this talk interesting, maybe even helpful. Maybe you picked up a few things. If you did, let me know. Comments below. If you have more questions, comments below. If you want something for our question and answer session, go ahead and unleash it below. I also appreciate thumbs up. That helps our channel. We are growing. I like that. Why wouldn't you? I don't mind helping people. I like to reach a lot of people. I have sometimes fun doing this. No, come on. I have fun doing this. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. So, appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, why wouldn't you? Okay, this is Friday. I think this is still Friday. Okay, it's Friday. I will have no vlog tomorrow, Saturday. I have no vlogs on Sunday anyway. We'll be back Monday with a vlog. It'll come out late Monday most likely. I've got a lot of things going on this weekend, non-business related. Busy. Got to keep going on the momentum. Hopefully you are too. Pick well, list often, dealer out.
Hey, Wheeler.
Dealer production.